yeah, let's jump into it. Please smash the like for some Jasmy. Just going to clear up some tabs real quick. All right, this comes straight from Mr. Harrison. All right, so here it is, straight from him. This was posted, I believe, the other day. Not the other day, September 10th. My bad. I did want to draw your attention to some of this because, you know, sometimes things do fly under the radar, or maybe you saw something and you were like, I already know about that. I want to talk about this because this particular thread, or not thread, but this post has gotten a lot of attention since the 10th. So for one, Hara posted this. Layer 2 of Jasmy will be launched with the Token 2049 platform. We are developing a personal data logger that identifies data and functions as a digital ID for the individual. Jasmy tokens that will be circulated on global exchanges and a network that connects these tokens. Now, before, whether you're watching on the live or recorded before, you're like, oh no, what about the original token that's going to diminish it? We reestablished this, right? We talked about this before on another video, yes, from the old channel. It talks about, the one, being able to have it traded at a 1-1 ratio. Who pointed that out? Well, remember in the segment, Jesse of Keeping It Real Finance, KIR, he pointed that out. That's why I brought it to you guys. So, yes, Jasmy tokens will be circulated on global exchanges and a network that connects these tokens. We have received support from a number of world-class partner companies. Isn't that what it should be all about? Again, at the very beginning of this show, maybe not for this segment, but if you watch the live show, we talked about, like what Tokenizer shared. Partnerships are literally like what makes things just a little bit better. It's not utility in motion, but it's getting things going, right? So the following is from DFW Labs, and it states Jasmy is launching its own Layer 2 scaling solution network. The Jasmy platform, a blockchain platform that democratizes data, right? We know this, by combining blockchain and IoT tech to provide data security, has announced it will be launching its own Jasmy chain, which is Layer 2 scaling solution built atop the Ethereum network. We know about this stuff. The key features of the network will include account abstraction, which is natively integrated into there. And this is something new that you may not be aware of. Optimism, and you got to keep in mind, optimism, it's like if you have researched optimism and so on, you understand like this is a good thing in my opinion. I've seen like there's another project I've covered, right? You guys know I've done over 30 videos on Clearpool. I needed to do a few extra ones here in a bit, but Clearpool, for instance, went with a scaling solution, not necessarily optimism, but that they did Polygon. But it's not, unheard of for people to go with optimism, or they go with optimism, Polygon, some other ones, right? They do a little bit of all these. But yeah, natively integrated into their optimism stack-based technology, along with Web3 operating system that incorporates Jasmy AI engine to become an intelligent, decentralized network. The Layer 2 network will maintain more efficient data transaction speeds and costs while adding the mentioned new features to address the needs of its users. The key thing for you should be that this is real solid talk about the Jasmy chain. Where on the other hand, it's just like, talking about some ideas and so on. You're literally seeing them getting things going. How many times I mentioned before, just because you think there's not much going on with this cryptocurrency or other ones and so on, you got to keep in mind working in the background. Here's a perfect example of just that. If you go to the Medium link, it basically just tells you the same things of what Hara has posted. It's just more drawn out. I reviewed it. I didn't see anything that was like really juicy. But this next part is what I do want to draw some of your emphasis to. This is where a lot of focus is still on this. Now, this is not FUD or anything like that, but 279, who's a local, Phoenician, if you will, he brought this up. So let's pull this up. All right. So he says straight to Hara. Okay. Not all members may fully understand layer 2, which functions off-chain and aligns with edge computing. Now, I'm not going to do another deep dive about the whole thing of can Jasmy scale, right? Yes, they can. They have a layer 2 solution. Even currently, they have a layer 2 solution with centrality. They'll have a layer 2 solution when they make their own chain with what they got going on with everything that's been recently outlined, right? We're not going to do another deep dive into that. But, yeah, I agree. Not, all members may fully understand that layer 2. Excuse me, just making sure I'm not muted. All right, so yes, while the general population might not grasp the intricacies, excuse me, he, as in 279, had already anticipated this direction for Jasmy before it was even mentioned, right? And sometimes a lot of us do that. I do it sometimes. I saw Jesse cover some things that end up, becoming like valid later on. How about this? We did talk about what is it? Let's go back one step. DFW Labs. Some people were thinking, is that just speculative with DWF Labs in regards to, using them as a key partner and so on? Yeah, that came to light. So yes, that's a valid point. But it is vital to inform the community, and I would agree with this, okay, about Jasmy's intentions to offer devices with edge computing capabilities and the innovative patented modular technology designed for Layer 2. The news about Layer 2 is particularly exciting, yeah, to say the least. Because, who is not excited about the idea of being able to scale and then, like from what I also shared with you guys, even take it further. Layer 2, especially for you guys that are new, involves off-chain verification utilizing AI, like he says here, from 279, IoT, and edge computing, which requires a new setup in IoT devices. And when we talk about utility in motion, I may get tired of me saying this, this is the perfect example of just that. This configuration allows AI to process collected raw data. And I love this expression because I would rather have raw data collected, because there's a difference between getting some of, already established data and then doing a lot with that. I mean, say what you want. Picture this, right? Would you rather have a case of, like, here is my glass, right? All right, I already have this glass. All right, it only has a little bit left in it. Okay. Here, do something with this. I mean, I guess there's value with that. But I'd rather have a case where you fill up my whole freaking glass because it's empty. I'm just trying to give you a visualization. Apply that to data, right? And the value of that data. I mean, it's not rocket science. Yes, even a gas tank, pulling a gas station. Nobody likes having to do that lately. It costs a lot of money. I mean, here in Phoenix, it's almost $5 a gallon. But even for, that gas station, they're going to make a heck of a lot more money on me coming in on fumes than if I have a quarter of a tank. Apply that to this example. So yes, this configuration allows AI to process collected raw data, identify local significance, and then upload it to the Jasmy network. Oh my gosh. Isn't this the perfect example of utility in motion? Tonight's topic, or headline, or what you want to call it, if you want to call it that, should be Thursday night, utility in motion. Maybe that's what I should have called the thumbnail. Whatever. But yes, these statements are true. Identify local significance and then upload to the Jasmy network. So when we can expect the announcement that Jasmy will be selling IoT devices with what layer 2 scaling solutions. After all, it is fundamentally an IoT company that employs AI for decentralized data extraction from IoT devices using what edge computing. Says thanks, he's drooling. Why is he drooling? Because he already understands what he holds and why he holds it. Some people may be upset that we're not to where we need to be yet with the whole thing with Jasmy. Are you not understanding the roadmap? Are you not understanding what they are building? It's incredibly bullish, and the way he outlined it and the way he, went into detail about it gives you that picture of like, you know what, maybe I should just still, there's some people don't want to give this a chance anymore. Maybe reconsider it. Not financial advice, but that is what I'm choosing to do. Of course, I'm not going to give up on Jasmy. This part is a valid statement. Comes from Vince Kazama. Why does Hara, CFO, never answer questions directly on X? Of course, 279 answers. He says probably he needs to have discussions with Jasmy management. Now, on this next part, don't think this is fun, but this is being real. It's a valid question, and I know it seems like I'm reading a lot verbatim, but again, this is something that was posted, like, let's face it, I mean, 4 days ago, and it still has a lot of eyeballs on this. I think some of you guys saw it, maybe you didn't. Let's talk about it. And this is a good explanation. So for one, like 279 says, Hara probably needs to have discussions with Jasmy management. And I think that's where it's at right there. How do I personally know this? I watch other content creators. I don't watch a lot of them, but I will give credit to people like who? Jesse, KIR Finance. He is a Jasmy ambassador, and he has stated in one of his recent videos about some of these things, about what they can say and what they can't say. Think about it. NDAs, right? Non-disclosure agreements. You can't just come out and say what he needs to say freely, right? I mean, I know a lot of us are not biggest fans of the president of the United States and so on, but I mean, that's one way of looking at it, right? The president conveys information to the White House press secretary. People would say that person's a puppet, whatever you want to call it, right? I don't want to make this political. But that person has to protect the best interests of what's being conveyed from the president. Apply that to, for instance, like Jasmy management, for instance. It's not that they're trying to hide anything, but you also got to keep in mind that when it comes to the bigger picture of things, literally might just be that, hey, according to these clauses of what's written up in the non-disclosure agreement with such and such partner or whoever, we can't talk about these things. Again, guys, you got to keep in mind, there's one difference when it comes to transparency and being fully transparent. And there's another difference when it comes to understanding business models and how things are basically conveyed. There's other companies that basically are not going to release all the info we want. What's a perfect example? Ripple. You better believe that there's things, of course, signed into non-disclosure agreements that can come out in due time, and other things that can't. Are we so oblivious to this, or do we just want to pick on Jasmy because that's the popular thing to do because you see a lot of FUD? Now, getting back into this. So, yeah, discussions with Jasmy management before posting anything that could impact their reputation. Additionally, when he translates my messages, the context of my questions may get lost due to just that language barrier. I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses, and I don't think he is either, but it's a valid point. You got to keep in mind, even Hara has come a long way from his time of what people used to accuse him of being a possible AI to literally getting on camera, like going from just a Discord AMA and being a voice to literally seeing live videos and at conferences and so on. So again, even I myself, I mean, I'm just a YouTuber, if you will. There was a point in time where I had to get comfortable and stop just doing recorded content on a Battlefield 5 or Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War video, and you see me do gameplay and you hear my voice but you don't see me, right? We all got to get out of our comfort zone. But this is a business, and I understand people say, well, hey man, he needs to get out of his comfort zone, he needs to do more. Okay, fine, I understand that. Some people also say, well, he needs to hire more people. Well, understand, this is his position. So yes, here's an example. Hara posting something in Japanese that needs translation. We translate it, resulting in a loss of context. Right. Another example of that is what you see posted from level 8. You know what I mean? Like, there's times in which I'm like, hi, level 8. Yeah, I clicked on the translation, and he's just like, oh, well, next time I'll try to do a better job of chopping that up. And I'm like, it's fine, man. I could make sense of it and so on, but some of the context gets literally lost in translation because It's just that the language barriers and so on, right? What I say can mean completely something different in a different language. Here's a perfect example. My mom's native tongue, which is Cebuano, right? Some people call it Visaya, right? Um, back in the late 1980s, Cleveland Cavaliers, you know where I'm going with this if you follow basketball. Craig Elo for three, you know, all the Filipinos are laughing their what off. Why? Because Elo means wipe your butt in their language. So every time, wipe your butt for three, and they're just in tears, right? Again, the context. You get what I'm saying? I think you do. All right. That's kind of a funny tidbit. But anyway, yeah, he might not be well acquainted with the answers, which of course is why 279 believes he requires a briefing to stay informed about ongoing matters. This explains why sometimes Jasmy management posts first and Hara, Jasmy CFO, follows later. You want to know something? Say what you want. If you're not following 279, you should give him a follow, right? He's already got 13,000 followers, and if anything, I mean, you know, we talk about the second round of Jasmy ambassadors. Say what you want. I mean, some people said, I've been considerate. Jesse mentioned that and so on. It'd be kind of cool if 279, me and 279 represent, the Phoenix Valley, but it is what it is, right? But yeah, you're not acquainted with it. This also explains why Jasmy management posts first and Hara follows later. That's a great example. And that is true. We do see that. All right, one last thing, because it does need to be addressed. I mean, you guys know I do floodbusters once in a while. Hara likely serves an ambassador promoting Jasmy at business conventions. They are in the process of developing IoT devices with Borks. Now, I do still need to chop up the Borks segment that was provided from NeoXTrix, and I will do that soon. Again, it's from the old channel, and I have to edit some certain things out of that, but I'm planning to do that. Because why? They're the first Jasmy partner, and there was also that video, I think it was on CNBC or Fox Business, and it's good stuff. You want to find out why that's significant. But yes, it states, in that process of developing IoT devices with boards featuring a novel modular edge computing capability. Now, if you understand the concept of modular, that's a big deal. I use that example in the past of modular power supply. A perfect example is the old traditional ATX power supplies, right? Back in the early 2000s, a lot of them weren't modular, right? You just have your thing for a plug and that's it. But nowadays you have what they call I shouldn't even say nowadays, literally for probably the last 10 years or so, modular power supplies where you plug in, all sorts of different types of plugs, right? You have, more than a few for, PCI Express, and you have just a whole bunch of other ones instead of just a simple plug, right? That is a good thing. But yeah, a modular edge computing capability. This technology ensures that data remains offline instead of being sent to a cloud storage, which is why I suggested it was part of their plan for layer 2 scaling solutions. I give you a great example of this on yesterday's quant coverage. Yeah, it wasn't talking about Jasmy, but those visuals showed why was it with the M10 business, not business model, but M10 used by banks and so on, they aren't going to necessarily put on cloud. Why? Because it's money, and some of that shouldn't be put in the cloud because of hacking and for security reasons. I'm glad to see that you see the same type of model being used with Jasmy. And why would that be? Because Jasmy, let's face it, is going to be working with, local banks, and we talked about this before, and we did have an outline in that regard. And I do see a lot of new people who are posting, and they're like, "Who's this new guy? He's making stuff up." They're not realizing I had an old channel and so on, and that's where it's all referenced. And if anything, I may very well pull some of that stuff off, just for I can have it as something to back me up. Because you know what, I'm the one who put in that research. I'm the one who put in that time. I should be able to have something that's going to show, look, here's the proof of what I'm talking about. So I can understand some of the frustration with some of these new people, and I do thank you for being new. If you're watching, from the recorded, but I do like the idea that Jasmy has already planned in advance of what they're planning to do, especially when it comes to finance democracy. And that is a great example, remaining offline instead of being sent to cloud storage. Again, yesterday's example outlines all that, not through a Jasmy segment, but through the quant coverage. And if anything, you can use that as a reference. Jasmy AI doesn't simply search for unnecessary data, it actively detects hidden data that companies are interested in purchasing by request, basically. That is huge because that is one of many reasons, or one of the main reasons, why you want to have an AI engine, right? A Jasmy layer 2 Jasmy chain AI engine. There is an example. Before we talked about some of the concepts, that is a key example for you moving forward as a Jasmy holder. How about a little bit more about this? Let's see here. This data is vital for these companies, guaranteeing that only pertinent and valuable information is uploaded, thus preserving data privacy and security. Now, if you're wondering about some of the recent things that were talked about, last June we talked about this a few months ago. It's called APPI, Japan APPI. And that has been revised numerous times since last 2020. Again, for this tonight, we're not going to jump into all the nitty gritty about it because we've done it before. And again, that might be another one I have to pull from the old and put it here as a reference because that's good research. But the key thing is all this is vital and how Jasmy has been compliant with APPI. Don't ever dismiss some of these things that are being mentioned. Fudders will have you focus on the negative and say Jasmy scam and all that because they look at the chart. But if you look more into the nitty gritty, which is basically APPI and all that stuff, again, it comes full circle. These guys at Jasmy have from the very beginning become what is called, regulatory compliant in so many different ways. From when it comes to APPI, when it comes to being regulatory compliant with the FSA, the JVCA, again, their plugs, their connects, right? Gankyoda, we know all that stuff. So why would we dismiss it? Because the fudders are creating fear in the market. Again, guys, do we know who these fudders really are? Are they only doing it because they are, for instance, they could be paid fudders for all you know? So people accuse me of being a paid shiller. I'm not paid shiller. I covered Jasmy if I was getting paid for it or not. But the key thing is some people represent their own intentions. We've seen that a lot lately, have we not? And if anything, they only care about what's best for them. Maybe they made a killing on crypto winter, shorting everything. Again, they don't have a community of fudders. They represent just themselves. All right. In closing, in regards to this Jasmy segment, because we're talking about, purchasing, in that regard. So this is a decentralized means for users to maintain I never pronounce this word. Sorry. Anonymity. Still can't say. I've said it before the right way, so I have to look it up. I can't let it roll off. And sometimes it just rolls off and it doesn't. While safeguarding, I know what it is. It just doesn't come out right. While safeguarding all their data from being transmitted online and being exposed to cyber hacking. And again, that's why I mentioned the whole concept of hacking. If you allow things to exist on cloud, you're taking on so much more risk, right? You're sacrificing accessibility, or you're sacrificing security for accessibility. But it doesn't mean that it can't be accessed. It just needs to be accessed when it needs to be. Here's another example. You go down to a bank. Let's say that bank has a vault, right? Do they access the vault all the time? No, they do not. There's times in which the vault needs to be accessed. And there's times in which only quick money at drawers need to be accessed and so on. But it's there, and it needs to have a higher sense of security, hence why it's in a vault compared to just being right in front of people's faces. You can apply some of that to what we're talking about here. All right, I know that's a lot in regards to Jasmy and so on. And You may think this is the end of what we have. Not quite, because I did want to talk about the whole concept of APPI. And while I don't have the deep dive video on this channel yet, I just wanted to give you the quick gist of it if you're new to the concept of APPI. Shout out to Neil X Tricks. He does a really good job in this. I believe it's an AI explanation because he has some really good skills with his videos in regards to APPI, data privacy law in Japan. Everything makes sense, like he says, and Jasmy is at the logical next step in this digital transition of IoT, Internet of Things at a global scale. Please smash that like if you're still with us. Let's go ahead and play this. Here we go.
Hello, and welcome to This Week in Privacy. My name's Alexis Katafidis, and here are your regulatory highlights for this week. In Japan, amendments to the Act on the Protection of Personal Information came into effect on the 1st of April. The amendments to the APPI include enhancements to data breach reporting obligations, data transfer requirements, and data subject rights. Additionally, amendments to the enforcement rules for the APPI also came into effect, which provide detail regarding breach notification obligations. Since the bill was passed in June 2020, the Personal Information Protection Commission has updated much of its guidance as well as issuing new guidelines to assist organizations understand and comply with the amended APPI, including its general guidelines and in relation to data transfers and the processing of anonymized information. The PCI Security Standards Council announced the release of version 4.0 of the PCI Data Security Standard. The updates to PCI DSS aim to address emerging threats and technologies and enable innovative methods to combat new threats, including in relation to updated firewall terminology to network security controls to support a broader range of technologies used to meet the security objectives traditionally met by firewalls, expansion of Requirement 8 to implement multi-factor authentication for all access into the cardholder data environment, increased flexibility for organizations to demonstrate how they are using different methods to achieve security objectives, addition of targeted risk analyses to allow entities the flexibility to define how frequently they perform certain activities as best suited for their business needs and risk exposure. To provide organizations time to understand the changes in version 4.0 and implement any updates needed, the current version of PCI DSS will remain active for 2 years until it's retired on the 31st of March 2024. In Australia, the Critical Infrastructure Protection Bill passed both houses of Parliament. The bill sets out a number of measures, including the obligation to adopt and maintain a risk management program, the ability to declare systems of national significance, and enhance cybersecurity obligations that may apply to these systems. The Australian Department of Home Affairs has since published various fact sheets to assist entities in understanding the obligations. The government stated that these fact sheets will be supplemented by additional, more detailed guidance material to be developed with industry. That's all for this week in privacy. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week.
All right, that gives you the quick gist of it. There's just a tad bit more, and then this will round things off for the Jasmy coverage. And again, thank you to Neo X Tricks for providing those chopped up visuals. All right, so we're going to get into this right now. And basically, it's just this right here, and it's just kind of pounding it home just a tad bit more. Like he shares right here, Japan, right? What, it is. We know this. One of the strictest countries in terms of data privacy, and rightfully so. The Personal Information Protection Act that we referenced earlier grants individuals many rights, including the right to control their personal data. Jasmy will provide even more security regarding the control of just that personal data. Why? Because they get it. I mean, when you're the one that's compliant from the get-go and you're all about understanding compliancy and so on, that is a key thing. If we were going to sit here and talk about the BlackRocks of the world, where they're only going to enter into, tokenizing all their assets, I should say all their assets, but even a portion of their assets by 2030 and so on, you got to understand that is big because they don't want things to be, volatile, right? It can't be, right? This is where the concept of a utility run is consistently referenced. If you have a company like Jasmy who recognizes all this by being regulatory compliant on every single type of thing that we could think of, for the FSA, the JVCA, again, the APPI, we talk about data free flow with trust. I mean, all this stuff, so if it's a scam, which it's not, but like these guys say, Jasmy scam. If it's such a scam, why go through all of the trouble to be compliant? And if anything, like it says, Japan, one of the strictest countries. So you're going through all the trouble of being compliant, and you're doing it where? In the most strictest of compliant countries in the world? Give me a break. Not a scam. So with that said, that's going to conclude the Jasmy coverage of the night. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure that you smash that like, hit that bell notification, and if anything, make sure you are subscribed to the new channel, MaximusCrypto. Appreciate you, and thank you again.